Information economics. 5,000 years ago, people slept under grass roofs, covered themselves with skins, and fastened sharp stones on sticks to throw at animals. An American Indian friend of Professor Cooter said, "My father lived in the Stone Age. He grew up in the Iron Age, and I'm dying in the Computer Age." The technical innovations that drove these changes have accelerated. Since the Industrial Revolution, innovation has caused wealth to grow at compound rates. Compounded over a century, a 2% annual growth rate increases wealth more than 6 times. A 5% annual growth rate increases wealth more than 130 times. And a 10% annual growth rate increases wealth almost 14,000 times. This section concerns some laws that promote innovation and cause compound growth. To understand how these laws affect growth, we must first explain the basic economics of innovations, beginning with the effects of innovation on welfare. And economic innovation provides a better way to make something or something better to make. A better way to make something lowers its cost, so the supply curve shifts down and to the right. This shift causes the price of the good to fall for consumers. The amount of their gain is measured by the increase in consumers' surplus in the market for the cheaper good. Similarly, finding something better to make creates a new good that some consumers buy. Consumers benefit from the fall in the price of a good that they buy or from the introduction of a new good. In addition, innovations can make whole industries appear, disappear, or restructure. Only historians remember the American Ice Trust, which was one of America's largest corporations in 1900. By changing wages and employment, innovation disrupts communities, causing some to grow and others to wither. The mechanization of agriculture in the U.S. emptied the countryside in the early 20th century and left vacant buildings boarded shut in small towns. Although many agricultural workers moved to the city for higher wages, a plowman with a team of horses who remained in the countryside found few employers who valued his skill. In Europe, the Industrial Revolution shoved the nobles with large estates out of the centers of political power. Joseph Schumpeter appropriately called innovation creative destruction. Most societies value the gains from faster growth, more than they fear its destructive effects. Property law can help to secure rapid economic growth. To understand why, we must shift from consumers and workers to companies. A company that innovates gains a competitive advantage, which immediately creates extraordinary profits. Extraordinary profits reward the innovator for the resources and effort devoted to a very risky activity. In the long run, however, competition causes the innovation to diffuse, and many companies make use of it. When the innovation diffuses fully, the innovator loses its competitive advantage, and its profits fall to the ordinary level. When diffusion is complete, the economy reaches a new equilibrium whose benefits diffuse even more broadly than the innovation. In this life cycle of an innovation, the innovation causes a disequilibrium and the innovator earns extraordinary profits as long as it persists. The reward for innovation thus depends on how long the disequilibrium persists. A quick move to equilibrium gives little reward to the innovator for the resources that it invested and the risk that it assumed. Without legal intervention, competition can quickly destroy the profits from innovation, which results in too little innovation. To see why, we must understand some elements of the economics of information. Everyone with a television or computer buys information, but information differs from other commodities like oranges or razor blades. What special problem exists in defining property rights and establishing markets in information? Information has two characteristics that make transactions in information different from transactions in ordinary private goods. The first characteristic is credibility, which we discuss in Chapter 9. The second characteristic, which we discuss now, is called non-appropriability. Information is generally costly to produce and cheap to transit. To illustrate, popular music is costly to make and recordings are cheap to copy. The instant the producer sells information to the buyer becomes a potential competitor with the original producer. For example, when someone buys a compact disc recording at a music store, the buyer can copy the disc immediately and resell it to others. Furthermore, the reseller bears only the cost of transmission, not the cost of production. Thus, resellers who pay for transmission undercut producers who pay for production. Consumers try to free ride by paying no more than the cost of transmission. The fact that producers have difficulty selling information for more than a fraction of its value is called the problem of non-appropriability. To illustrate, Hong Kong shops traditionally resell American software at the cost of a diskette. Producers use various devices to try to protect their products against appropriation, such as writing computer programs that are hard to copy. The industry calls this digital rights management. But for every program obstructing copying, there's a hack. Consider the connection between non-appropriability and public goods. Information contains ideas. One person's use of an idea does not diminish its availability for others to use. Thus, information is non-rivalrous. Excluding some people from learning about a new idea can be expensive because the transmission of ideas is so cheap. Thus, information is non-excludable. These are the two characteristics of public goods identified in Chapter 2. Non-appropriability of information is essentially the same problem as non-excludability for public goods.